Hi everybody, welcome back. It's Jennifer J and we are into part 15 already. So thank you for joining us again. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I wish that you would. We're trying to get those numbers up just so that it can be shared with more people. You know, the algorithms work in such a way that the more people that subscribe, the more people it gets out to. And I would love to share this with others. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, and I'd also love to hear your comments at the end or through the middle of it, whatever. Drop a line, drop a note, let me know what you're thinking. Or if you have any questions or prayer requests as well. So we're gonna dig right in. When we left off last time, we were working on Tony Evans' message, Signs You Are Called by God. And we left off, I believe, we had talked about when Paul was in prison, he was afflicted to the point of death, that they might learn to trust him. And so that's where we left off. So Dr. Evans was talking about that we only have one source, and the source is God. And so anything outside of God isn't a source, it's a resource. But you have to remember that all of the resources are God's, and they're provided by God because he is the source. And so he was talking about he was commanding Elijah to go there. So first he told Elijah to go do something. Excuse me. So he had to go. And then he was asking him to go to a place that wasn't safe and to trust him. And he would find a woman who couldn't take care of herself in a place that's a bad location. But he wants him to go to this woman who can't take care of herself, who lives in a bad area. And he did that. And I don't think I'm in a bad area. I guess I don't know the crime rate here, but I don't think I'm in a bad area. But you know, it was kind of scary traveling that highway and coming here. So I think, you know, you really have to trust God when you step out on faith. But if he tells you to go, you have to go. You don't really have a choice. You have to go. So something else he said, you know, he had told the woman that her flour and her oil wouldn't run out until rain came on the land. And that was because he had prayed that there would be no rain on the land for 3.5 years. So God told him then to go to a place, it's just before, let me see if I can find it real fast. It's in chapter 17 of 1 Kings, but he said, the Lord came to him and said, get away from here and turn eastward and hide by the brook Cherith, which flows into the Jordan. And you shall drink from the brook, and I shall command the ravens to feed you there. So he did. And he did according to the word of the Lord. Now, ravens were considered to be an unclean bird. And yet, God chose intentionally to use this unclean bird to bring food to him. He brought bread and meat to him every day. And so God can use evil to make provision. He can use the unclean things to answer prayer. God can use anything that he created. And remember, he created the devil. So he created everything, and he can use anything he wants to put a blessing in your life. So he has put you in a situation to get you to either deal with your idolatry or to go deeper into your faith. And that usually means a scenario where you can't save yourself. So it's one source, one God, no competitors. And Baal was not a competitor. If you read on in that story, and I hope you will if you haven't, because it gets really good. It's a really good story. He challenges Baal basically to a duel. And it's their God against his God. And I think you know who wins, but it's still a good story. But he obeyed before the provision was there. So when God said go, he went. He didn't know how he would be provided for, but he trusted God. And it's not always a comfortable place to be let me change that. It's never, I don't think it's ever a comfortable place to be when you don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're doing. You just know he's called you to do it. And so you do it because you step out on faith, but it's not comfortable at all. You have a lot of questions. But often when God wants to do something for you, he'll ask something from you first. And, that's exactly what he did with me, because he asked me to move to Arizona. And I don't know why, well, like now at this point, I have some revelations, but back when he asked me to go, I was just like, what in the world? But you have to show that you trust him. And something that makes me think of is our tithing, because God gives us the money that we have, right? Like, God owns everything. So you have your job by the grace of God, and you have your paycheck by the grace of God. And all God asks is that we give him a tithe back. And most people consider a tithe to be 10%. There are some instances in the Bible where that derives from, but any amount that you determine in your heart that you feel like that's what God's telling you to give, whether that's 2% or 20%, that part's not relevant. What's relevant is that your first fruits are supposed to go to God. Now, in my thinking, first fruits is before taxes, before insurance, before you took out for your cafeteria plan or your retirement or anything else. It's off the gross. That's the first fruit, not off the net. And it's important to trust God that you're going to give that back willingly and cheerfully and say, because you gave this to me, I want to give this back to you. And then that's used for his work. And, a lot of people don't like to do that. They don't want to give to the local church or whatever. If you give it in the spirit that you intend it to be used for God's glory, God's going to bless it. Whether that church uses it for the right thing, or whether the organization you gave it to or whatever uses it for what you intended it for, is not your problem. God knows your heart. And if you gave it with the right intention, that's what he blesses. So it made me think of that when he said he asks something from you before he blesses you, because we have to trust him with that. Sometimes there's not enough money to pay all the bills, but he doesn't say only give to me after you've paid your bills. He says give it first. And he says to test him in that and see if he won't open the storehouses and the windows of heaven and pour out blessing on you. So I dare you, if you aren't currently tithing, to test him and do that. He has never, ever let me down, ever. So don't be afraid. And that's what he says. As we become vehicles of blessing, he will bless even more. So I challenge you to do that. And in verse 15, when the woman did what she was told, she was blessed. So, she didn't even believe necessarily in this God. She was in this town where they worship Baal, but she recognized that this was a man of God, Elijah, and she did what she was told, and she was blessed. She only had enough flour and oil to feed herself and her son one more time. And she thought that was going to be their last meal, and then they would die. And yet, she made a cake for him and took it to him first. And she could probably see that there wasn't going to be enough to make, for her and her son now. But she did what she was told, and when she went back, the flour and the oil never ran out for days and days and days during this drought. So I imagine that she was very thankful to God that she stepped out on faith. And God can provide in unexpected ways when you're in fellowship with him. So think about that this week, that, I'm sure she didn't expect the flour and oil not to run out. And I know you don't expect whatever blessing it is he has for you. But if you will step out on faith, whether it's through tithing or whether it's through doing what he's asking you to do, maybe there's a thing that he's told you to do, be obedient. Because as you are doing those things, he is going to provide and he is going to bless, and he can be trusted. So I'm so anxious to hear what he's doing in your life this week. I do want to not run out of time, and I apologize, I don't think I ever set my timer, so I'm going to have to just keep this short. And we'll go over next time, February 9th. I know I'm just cruising right along here, one day at a time. I'm not sure. I really want to go over this Exodus part 2, but we may just jump right into another TD Jakes as well. So I'll decide before we come back next time. And in the meantime, this week, please, 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 make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you are getting notifications for the channel so that you know when a new one is airing, and sharing this with somebody that you think might be able to be blessed by it. And then make sure that you are giving your tithe and being in the Word and listening to God and obeying so that you can be blessed. And I look forward to hearing what He's doing in your life. Bye-bye.